Welcome to Coding, your weekly dose of what you actually need to know in cybersecurity. We know how much noise is out there, so our job is to cut through it, find the stories that matter, and give you the context you need fast.
That's the plan. And this week, we've got a really interesting cross-section of threats. We're looking at sophisticated backdoors, a really critical vulnerability in some email software, a big supply chain breach, and a frankly disappointing story about insider crime.
Okay, let's start with that supply chain situation, the one involving the European Space Agency, or ESA. They came out and confirmed a breach, but said it only affected unclassified collaborative engineering activities. So why should we care if the agency itself is sort of downplaying it?
Well, because the classification of the data is way less important than the type of data, especially when you start thinking about, pivoting and lateral movement. So ESA confirmed the attack was on external servers they intentionally keep outside their main corporate network for collaboration.
And the hacker, 888, I think they're called, is claiming they took a lot of data.
A huge amount. They posted on brute forums claiming they swiped around 200 gigabytes of material.
200 gigs? I mean, even if it's unclassified, that's a massive exposure. What exactly was in there? What are the nuggets we should be looking at?
Okay, this is the really critical part for any security team. The list includes source code from private Bitbucket repos.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it had CI/CD pipeline configurations, API and access tokens, and a whole bunch of hard-coded credentials.
Okay, credentials and tokens are always bad.
Always. But the real golden ticket for an attacker in that pile, the Terraform infrastructure code.
Right, Terraform. Why is that specific detail so important? We hear about credentials all the time, but what does stealing Terraform code let an attacker do?
Well, think of it this way. Terraform isn't just a blueprint of the environment. It's the actual instruction set. It's the code that deploys and connects everything.
So it's not a map, it's the automated factory that builds the city.
Exactly. An attacker with that code doesn't just see the architecture. They hold the keys to the whole automated deployment engine. They can use those stolen tokens and credentials to spin up their own stuff, tear things down, or even worse.
Worse how?
They could inject malicious steps right into the CI/CD pipeline configurations, compromise the actual software deployment process itself. It's the perfect way to turn a so-called unclassified breach into a massive supply chain vulnerability.
So you're not just hitting ESA, you're potentially hitting all of their partners and contractors who use their shared repositories. It's a classic pivot.
A textbook pivot maneuver. And unfortunately, this isn't a one-off for EA, is it?
No, it seems to fit a pattern.
It does. It was only about a year ago that a credit card skimmer was found on their web shop just sitting there collecting payment data. This kind of repeat compromise on their external systems points to a real systemic weakness.
Okay, so from stolen blueprints to something much stealthier. Let's talk about advanced persistent threats. Specifically, the group Mustang Panda and their new souped-up ToneShell backdoor.
What's so fascinating here is just how hard they're working to get around modern EDR and security tools. This group, Mustang Panda, is a Chinese state-sponsored actor focused on cyber espionage. They've been targeting government organizations in Asia, especially places like Myanmar and Thailand, since at least early 2025. But this new version of ToneShell is a major technical step up.
A step up in what way? What did they add that makes it so much harder for security tools to find?
They built this new variant to use a signed mini filter driver. That's the key.
A mini filter driver. For anyone listening who doesn't live inside the Windows kernel, what is that?
So it's a kernel mode driver. It sits in the deepest layer of the operating system, right in the file system stack. It's designed to intercept and monitor file operations as they happen.
So it's not running in user space where like 99% of our normal security tools operate. It's running right alongside the core OS itself. Super privileged, super stealthy.
That's it. And the fact that it's signed is so important. That digital signature often tricks security software into just, trusting it by default. And by operating at that level, it gets rootkit-like stealth. But its most powerful trick is how it can specifically mess with security tools.
Mess with them how? Is it just killing the process, or is it something deeper?
Oh, it's much deeper. This driver actually lets the attackers prevent things like Microsoft Defender from even loading into the I/O stack in the first place.
Wait, so they're not just hiding from Defender, they're blocking it from even starting up its monitoring.
Precisely. If you can stop the security tool from initializing at that fundamental OS level, you're basically invisible. Your traditional user mode tools are completely blind.
Wow. They're abusing a trusted signed system tool, a driver, to disable the defenses before the defenses can even run. That completely changes how you have to hunt for this.
It really does. It forces you into things like memory forensics. Since the driver can hide its own files on the disk, you have to look for it in runtime memory. You have to hunt for those behavioral artifacts that are being suppressed.
So what's the advice?
Kaspersky, who wrote this up, they really emphasized using the provided indicators of compromise, the IOCs, but combining that with memory analysis. That's how you catch these super evasive threats.
Okay, now let's pivot from deep stealth to just sheer urgency. If you manage an email server, especially Smarter Mail, you need to listen up.
Yeah, this is a big one. A maximum severity remote code execution flaw, or RCE. It's CVE 2025-52691. And the reason it's rated maximum severity is because it lets an unauthenticated attacker upload basically any file to any location on the server.
Unauthenticated, hold on. So an attacker doesn't need a username, doesn't need a password, nothing. They can just walk up to the front door and drop a malicious package inside.
That's a perfect analogy. No credentials required, no user interaction needed. It's a catastrophic failure of the file validation process.
So they can just drop a web shell or some other malware right into a directory where it'll get executed.
Exactly. And once they do that, it's game over. They have full control of the entire mail server.
And compromising a mail server is just devastating. It's not just about that one box.
Not at all. It means they can steal all the emails, all the attachments, all the sensitive internal communications, and, maybe more importantly, they now have a trusted platform to launch incredibly convincing phishing campaigns or pivot deeper into the network. It's the perfect beachhead.
So Smarter Tools has a fix out, right? What's the call to action?
Apply the patch immediately. It's build 9413. Right now, there's no confirmed in the wild abuse, but that window is closing by the second.
Yeah, the minute a patch like this drops, it's a race. It's basically a starting gun for every criminal group out there to start scanning for vulnerable server.
You have to assume active exploitation is happening right now.
That brings us to a really tough story about the human element of security. A case of people who are paid to defend companies, flipping sides.
It's a pretty shocking betrayal of trust. We're talking about former cybersecurity pros who are working as affiliates for the ALPHV or Black Cat ransomware gang.
Who are these guys?
Ryan Clifford Goldberg and Kevin Tyler Martin. And the irony of their backgrounds is just stunning. Goldberg was an incident response manager at Signia. He knew exactly how companies respond to a breach.
He knew the playbook.
And Martin worked as a ransomware threat negotiator. His job was literally advising companies on how to deal with these criminals.
You can't make this up. They took their insider knowledge of defense, of negotiation tactics, and just weaponized it. They knew the victim's psychology.
Absolutely. They weren't just exploiting tech, they were exploiting their knowledge of defense psychology. They admitted to a successful extortion of $1.2 million from a medical device company back in 2023.
And that wasn't their only target, was it?
Not even close. They admitted to trying to hit a whole list of others, a pharmaceutical company, a doctor's office in California where they demanded $5 million, an engineering firm, a drone manufacturer. They were busy.
So these are serious federal charges they're facing.
Very serious. Conspiracy to interfere with interstate commerce by extortion. That carries up to 20 years in prison. Their sentencing is set for March 12, 2026.
It's just a crazy reminder that the insider threat isn't always the person who accidentally clicks a link. Sometimes it's the most trusted person in the room.
It really is. It creates a whole new level of paranoia.
And that idea of trust brings us kind of full circle. Let's wrap up by looking at how phishing is getting smarter by abusing systems we're all trained to trust, namely Google Cloud.
Yeah, this is a great case study. Attackers have been abusing a legitimate tool called Google Cloud Application Integration. And it's really important to stress this is not a breach of Google's core systems.
Right. It's not that Google was hacked. It's that a feature they offer is being cleverly misused.
Exactly. And the key detail, the thing that gets the email past all the filters, is the sender address. The emails come from Raw Application Integration at google.com.
So the email looks completely legitimate because, the sending part of it is legitimate.
Precisely. It's coming from Google's own servers, so it inherits Google's massive sender reputation. Most security gateways that rely on reputation scoring just let it sail right through.
So once it lands in the inbox, what's the lure?
Pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah.
Fake voicemail alerts, shared document notifications, all designed to mimic Google's own formatting. But the redirect chain was the clever part.
Okay.
When you click the link, you first get sent to storage.google.cloud.com, another legitimate Google service.
Ah, trusted kit stop. So even if you hover over the link, it looks safe at first glance.
Exactly. It uses that trusted domain before it finally dumps you on a fake Microsoft login page to harvest your credentials. They even threw a fake CAPTTCHA on there to block automated scanners. It was a really targeted campaign. Hit about 200 businesses, mostly in the U.S.
What a synthesis. We've covered critical RCEs, the deep stealth of that ToneShell driver, the value of config files in the ESA breach, and the grim reality of insider threats.
And the common thread running through almost all of it this week is the exploitation of trust. The attackers are weaponizing our foundational assumption that something operating at a deep system level or coming from a trusted service must be safe.
Whether it's a signed kernel driver, a mail server, or a legitimate cloud automation tool.
They're turning our trusted infrastructure right back against us.
Which leads us to our final thought for you this week. If the very tools we rely on, signed drivers, vendor-managed cloud services, can be so easily turned into weapons, how fundamentally do we need to rethink our security assumptions?
Yeah, think about it. What component in your own organization is getting a free pass, not because it's been vetted, but just because it's signed or managed by a big trusted vendor? That blind spot, that assumption of trust, is fast becoming the weakest link in the entire chain.
A lot to think about for the week ahead. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it helps you find some calm coding in all the chaos. We'll see you next week.